Witchbane. Mira Ashmoor tasted iron before she tasted fear. Guards in rust-stained armor dragged her along a corridor so cold it seemed carved from winter itself. Lanterns flickered like dying stars above pits of shadow. When one gauntleted hand yanked her hair, forcing her gaze upward, she met a wall of black iron bars and an open door beyond. The interrogation chamber smelled of old blood and lie, as though every confession ever scraped from a throat still lingered in the stone. They shoved her forward. She stumbled but did not fall. Pride was the only luxury she had left, and she would not let it slip. Chains clattered around her wrists as the guards forced her into a wooden chair bolted to the floor. Shackles snapped shut colder than the air. One guard spat to the side, muttered a curse against witchkind, and stepped away. Silence settled. It was worse than shouts. The torchlight longed to retreat but could not. She drew slow breaths, tasting dust, counting heartbeats, while her pulse thundered behind her eyes. The iron door opposite creaked. A tall man stepped through, closing it with deliberate care. He wore the dark leather and silver insignia of the Inquisition, but no hood masked his features. Harsh lines cut across a handsome, ruined face, scars along the left cheek, a thin white mark above his brow, an even colder slash to his mouth. His eyes, the color of winter sky at dusk, took her measure without blinking. She forced a thin smile. "I assume you are the Witchbane." He did not shift. "Damon Virel." His voice was flint dragged across granite. "Titles are for men who need them." "Virel," she echoed, rolling the name across her tongue. "The Scourge of Covens. Do you want my confession neatly written, or will a song suffice?" He approached the table between them, set down a ledger and ink. "You are Mira Ashmoor," he said, "accused of cursing Baron Cohen's bloodline with wasting sickness." He moved with the controlled economy of a swordsman, even while turning pages. "Testimonies from 3 witnesses place you at the manor the night the Baron's child fell ill." She lifted her shackled hands, pretending to study the bruises there. "I was there, as a healer, not a harbinger." Her smile sharpened. Subtle difference, difficult for some minds. He dipped the quill, scratching notes. "You call yourself healer, yet the Baron's son still withers." "Because the true curse lies elsewhere." She leaned forward until chains rattled. "But you already know curses, don't you, Inquisitor?" For the briefest blink, his shoulders stiffened. She saw pain flicker in his eyes, raw, hidden. But then his face closed. "We will begin," he said. "Tell me the invocation, the materials, the sigils you carved." "I carved nothing but hope into that child's skin." Her voice remained calm. "You want a villain? I am merely inconvenient." He set the quill aside, coming around the table. She felt his presence like cold flame. He drew a short dagger, its edge notched with runic silver. He grasped her wrist, pressed the blade against her forearm. "Pain reveals truth," he murmured. Heat radiated from the blade's magic, singing through her nerves. She hissed but held his gaze. "Truth reveals pain, Witchbane. Which do you fear more?" He sliced once, shallow, precise. Blood welled dark. At the first drop, her own magic stirred, copper-scented and immediate. She felt his pulse through his gloved hand, quickening, erratic. A whisper of energy bridged them. His eyes widened, and the scar above his brow darkened like ink beneath wet parchment. She glimpsed an image, not her own. A younger Damon kneeling beside a fallen soldier, perhaps his brother. Blood seeping into snow. A witch's sigil burning red on the dead man's forehead. The grief hit her chest like a mace. He jerked away, breathing hard. The bridge snapped. Mira gasped, the cut on her arm pulsing. He wiped the blade as though disgusted by the tremor in his own hand. She steadied her own breathing. "Interesting," she murmured. "You carry a stain inside you." Old magic. Rotting. Silence, he snapped, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. You wake with pain in your bones, she whispered, sensing the curse coiled inside him like a dying star. Headaches that taste of ash. Visions that do not fade at dawn. He strode back behind the table, inkpot shuddering at his arrival. This room extracts confessions, not fantasies. Confession, then. She lifted her bleeding arm, letting blood drip onto the wooden armrest. I confess your curse is killing you, and if you keep pressing me, it will claim you sooner. The torches guttered as if wind swept them, although none blew. Damon closed the ledger slowly. Your blood reacts to mine, he said at length. A statement, not a question. Blood reacts to intent. She let her wrist rest. You cut me with malice, it answered. He paced once, a measured predator. When he spoke, voice rasped. Tell me how to end the curse on the Baron's child. Find the true sorcerer, she said, and the root of the sickness will wither. You imply your innocence. I declare it. She smiled sadly. But innocence rarely survives Stonevale stones, does it? He halted, fingertips on the table's edge, gripping hard enough that joints whitened. I will return tomorrow, he said, tone flat. You will reconsider your answers. Chains clanked as she spread her hands. Perhaps tomorrow you will reconsider your questions. He left without another word, door slamming. The sound reverberated like a closing coffin lid. Guards marched her to a narrow cell, stone damp and smelling of rust. They chained her ankle to a ring in the wall and withdrew. She sank onto the straw pallet, feeling the cut on her arm throb. She whispered a small canticle, weaving blood into thread-like sigils that closed the wound. The magic left faint scarlet runes across her skin. Temporary, but they would call to Damon again. She needed him to return, to see more. Because she had glimpsed his wound too, deeper than the slice he gave her, black veins coiling around his heart, an ancient soul curse corrupting flesh. A curse she recognized. Alone in the dark, she allowed one tear for her mother, another for the brother. Damon still mourned. Then she slept, dreaming of snow, fire, and eyes the color of dying daylight. When Damon entered his chambers that night, he poured wine but could not drink. The glass trembled. Sweat prickled his spine, though embers in the hearth barely glowed. He unbuttoned his tunic, revealing the lines of dark bruise like rot creeping along his ribs. Removing the gloves, he stared at his palm where her blood had touched. No mark. Yet it felt scalded. Visions flickered, her eyes flashing defiance, her voice whispering of his pain. He clenched a fist. The wine glass shattered. Servants fetched water, offered poultices for cuts on his hand. He dismissed them, retreating to the mirror. His reflection swam. Behind it, faint ghost shapes writhed, apparitions he'd endured for months. Tonight they wore Mira's face, and he gripped the basin, knuckles whitening. Witchcraft, he muttered, though part of him knew the hauntings had begun long before she arrived. Sleep eluded. He paced the frost-rimmed hall outside her cell at dawn before ordering the guards aside. Unlocking the door himself, he stepped into the gloom. Mira sat cross-legged, eyes already awake and tracking him like a hunter. Early visit, she said, voice rough with sleep. Nightmares? He ignored the jibe. A healer arrives tomorrow to examine the Baron's child. If your innocence proves true, evidence must arise now. Her lips curved. And if it does? I escort you to the gallows less quickly. She laughed softly. You're bleeding. She gestured to his palm where shards still embedded. Let me see. Tempt another curse? No. She held up shackled wrists. I need neither freedom nor blade to taste your suffering. It spills from you like ink. Her tone softened. You cannot hide rot forever. He advanced, seizing her by the chin, tilting her face to the sliver of light from the corridor. The bruise on her cheek stood out starkly. His thumb brushed it unintentionally gentle. She stilled, surprise flickering. Heat surged between them, fierce, unbidden. Damon's breath faltered. Memories of snow-stained red crashed into him. He released her abruptly, stepping back as though scorched. "Confess," he growled, voice rougher than intended. She rose, chain clinking. "I will confess this. The curse in the boy is a mirror of the one hollowing you. Same sigils, older design. Whoever bound you also bound him, perhaps warding off suspicion by blaming witches at large." She cocked her head. "Should I tell your superiors that the Witchbane, scourge of sorcery, carries corruption inside?" He lunged, slamming her against the wall, chain rattling. "Enough." Her breath hitched, not from fear but thrill. He could feel the thrum of her pulse where his forearm braced her chest. She whispered, "Feel it?" She laid her shackled hands over his. Through cloth he felt searing cold, then heat. A rush of dizziness overtook him. Visions of her mother's burning flashed. Ropes, flames, screams. He staggered, releasing her. "My magic is truth," she said softly. "Your curse feeds on denial." Torchlight dimmed and brightened. Damon swore, dragging trembling fingers through his hair. "What do you want?" "Justice," she answered. "And the name of the one who truly cursed that child. Help me find it, and I'll silence the rot killing you." He backed toward the door. "Enjoy your solitude, I return at dusk." He exited, heart battering ribs. She sank slowly to the pallet, chain slack, chest heaving. It had begun. Their blood link tasted of iron and possibility. She whispered an incantation, subtle and low. Threads of shared sensation weaving across the dungeon stone, snaking under doorways to follow him. Not to harm, to remind. Damon strode the corridor, ignoring stares of other inquisitors. One younger man fell into step. "Commander, the council requests your report." "Later." Damon's voice rasped. "Your hand bleeds." The man offered a cloth. Damon clenched fist. "Leave me." He reached his private study, slamming the door. He pressed back against it, exhaling raggedly. As he lifted his wounded hand, he felt a phantom pressure. Mira's palms against it, as if shackled wrists still touched. He stared at the shredded skin. Blood trickled slow, black-tinged. He remembered her calm eyes when he cut her, remembered how her blood pulsed bright crimson, alive. That contrast haunted him long minutes. Outside, the fortress bell tolled midday. In the cell below, Mira listened, knowing that each clang hammered a crack in Damon Virel's armor. The cage of stone might hold her body, but another cage, a colder one inside his heart, had begun to fracture. Night would bring him back. Whether for confession, rage, or something darker, she did not know. She only knew the line between captor and cursed was already bleeding into twilight, binding them both in threads neither could sever. A storm rolled over Stonevale by late afternoon, thunder crawling along the mountain ridges while wind moaned through arrow slits. In the upper barracks, Damon tightened straps of his half-plate, hoping steel might brace a body that felt as if it were splitting apart. His pulse throbbed behind his scars, each beat carrying an echo of Mira's defiance. He swallowed laudanum, his usual armor against the curse, but the liquid tasted tinny, useless. Every breath smelled of smoke and violets, the scent that clung to her blood. A rap sounded. Captain Brask, one of Damon's more ambitious colleagues, entered uninvited. "Council wants your interrogation logs." His eyes cut to Damon's bandaged hand. "We hear the witch sings yet." "She will," Damon said, buckling a vambrace. "The truth takes time. Rumor says she's hexing you, nightmares, hallucinations." Brask's grin held no warmth. "We watch for weakness, Virel. Even Witchbane can crack." Damon fastened the last buckle, spine stiff. "She isn't my downfall. But question my loyalty again, and I'll demonstrate how little I need witchcraft to break a man." Brask's smile vanished. "I'll await the report." He retreated, boots ringing on stone. Thunder boomed. Damon exhaled. Each confrontation cost more. Fatigue bit deeper than steel. He descended through the keep, torchlight spinning shadows along stairwells. At the dungeon level he paused, sensing an unfamiliar hum. Energy coiling under the stones like restless snakes. Mira's doing, no doubt. 2 guards flanked her door. He dismissed them with a curt nod, unlocked the cell. As hinges groaned, he found her standing near the wall rune he'd burned to mark prior prisoners, an old sigil meant to break will. She traced it lightly, as though feeling memory trapped inside stone. She didn't turn when he entered. "Your storm brewed loud tonight, Witchbane." "It will pass," he said, closing the door behind him. "Unlike your silence." She faced him then, chains dripping from one wrist where she'd apparently coaxed the lock loose. "Storms leave scars," she replied, "often prettier than these walls." He eyed the dangling chain. Attempting escape? One link was enough. She guided the loose shackle back around her wrist, snapping it shut herself. "I wanted movement, not flight." "Explain the energy in the corridor." "A tether," she said, "so you could feel me." She tilted her head. "Did you?" He refused to confess, but the dizziness at her proximity answered. "We push forward," he said. "Give me the true name of the curse weaver." She sighed. "We chase circles. The name lies hidden within the Baron's own household. But that child's sickness is only a symptom. Your plague is the source." "I am not the Baron's child." "Yet you carry the prototype." She stepped closer, chain clinking. "Let me show you." He hesitated. "More tricks." "You cut me to taste my magic, now let me taste yours by choice." Her voice dropped. "Or keep dying by inches." Lightning flashed through the tiny barred window. He removed his gauntlet slowly, exposing the bandaged palm. Her eyes flicked to it, pupils dilating with a mix of hunger and empathy. She reached but paused. "Consent?" He nodded stiffly. She loosened the cloth, revealing half-healed cuts tinted gray. Gently, she pressed the pad of her thumb to the wound. Her blood sigils bloomed faint crimson, slipping from her skin into his. Razor heat raced up his arm, stabbed straight into his chest, yet the ache that followed felt oddly clarifying. Vision warped. They stood no longer in the cell, but in a threshold of shared memory. He found himself in a snowy courtyard outside a chapel, watching his younger self cradle a man with the same eyes, his brother, Felix, dying from a witch's poisoned rune. Damon's grief clawed across the vision, raw as ever. Yet he sensed Mira witnessing, offering silent sorrow. The scene shifted. Mira's own memory, a bonfire, her mother bound to a stake, onlookers cheering as flames consumed virtue. Damon felt the girl Mira's scream tear his own throat. They collided back into the present. Damon staggered. She steadied him. Rain hammered the window. Their breaths tangled. "This is our common grief," she whispered. "They binds us to vengeance, but vengeance birthed the curse inside you." He caught her shoulders, fingers trembling. "Make it stop." "I need blood shared willingly," she said, voice shaking now too. "Not by blade, but by union." Heat flared through him, not merely from magic. He tore open glove seams, exposing his other palm. She lifted it, sliced a shallow line across with her thumbnail. Then she reopened her own scar. She pressed their wounds together. A pulse shot through the dungeon, extinguishing torches. Only lightning lit the cell, framing them in white fire as blood mingled. He felt her pain, iron taste, the helpless terror of watching loved ones burn. She felt his. Rage turned hollow, a body rotting from inside. Another pulse, and their hearts aligned, a single staggered beat in 2 chests. Damon gasped. The black veins on his torso brightened, then receded slightly. Relief spread, bittersweet. Their faces inches apart, breath ragged. Her hand slid to his neck unconsciously, magic guiding need. He lowered his lips to hers, tasting salt and thunder. The kiss was savage. Months of agony and defiance poured into heat. Chains rattled as she pressed nearer. His arm wrapped her waist. The dungeon spun. For a breath, Stonevale's horrors vanished beneath desperate certainty that only this contact kept them breathing. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Damon broke away, eyes wild. He shoved her gently back. Someone comes. She caught her breath, blood still drying between their palms. Then pretend you still own me. The resigned challenge in her tone sliced him. He turned as Brask strode in, flanked by two lesser inquisitors. Brask's gaze swept the dim cell, lingering on their closeness, the extinguished torches. Interrogation in the dark, Commander? Sensitivity to light, Captain, Damon said coldly. The witch's spells irritate her pupils. Brask's nostrils flared. Council accelerates her sentencing. Public execution at dawn. He held up a sealed decree. Our superiors grow impatient. Ice clamped Damon's spine. Mira's chin lifted. Dawn's a lovely hour for death, she murmured. Gaze on Damon. Brask smirked. Prepare your final confession, Ashmoor. He beckoned guards outside. And, Commander, your report. Damon followed, locking the cell. Brask's eyes raked him. You look pale, Witchbane. The rumors appear accurate. Rumors die when starved, Damon replied. See that they do. He strode away, pulse hammering. In the corridor, hallucination seized him. Mira's voice whispered his name, though she remained behind iron. He pressed a hand to the wall, sweat chilling. The black veins pulsed again, slower this time. Her blood had calmed them, temporarily. He realized with vicious clarity that if she died at dawn, the curse would devour him by dusk. He reached his office, shutting the door with shaking hands. He wrote a brief report for the council, forging supportive lies. Mira had confessed, provided sigils matching hostile covens, but he knew Brask would not believe him long. Storm winds howled. Dusk bled tonight. Damon stared at the fireplace until sparks blurred. He donned civilian cloak, concealing sword, and a hidden dagger. He descended secret stairs into Stonevale's archived catacombs, a vault of confiscated grimoires. Cobwebs sagged from arches. Rats scurried. By lantern light, he searched shelves until he found a spine bearing a symbol like the veins on his chest. A serpent devouring its tail inscribed with runic thorns. He opened brittle pages. An illustration showed the ritual of soul binding, a union of cursed blood and witch blood to devour darkness. The text warned, both parties would share fate thereafter. He closed the tome, heart racing. Morning's execution bell would ring within hours. He had until then to decide. Thunder shook dust from the ceiling. He returned to his quarters, poured water, but spilled half. Hands would not steady. In the polished surface of the brass jug, he saw Mira's eyes overlaying his own. He whispered, "Believe." The word felt foreign, heavy. At first light, horns blared across Stonevale. Rain still pounded. The courtyard filled with spectators wrapped in cloaks. Guards hauled Mira onto the raised platform. Chains clinked. Hair hung wet over her shoulders. Yet, her gaze swept the crowd calmly until it found Damon standing at the base of the steps in full inquisitor regalia. Their eyes locked. The world narrowed to 2 heartbeats. Brask unfurled a scroll. For crimes of witchcraft, Mira Ashmoor is sentenced to death by cleansing flame. He nodded. Guards secured her to the post. A hooded priest lit the torch. Damon's breath hitched. Black veins flared under his collar, pain lancing. He staggered. Guards glanced but assumed illness. Mira saw, lips parting in silent warning. Flames took to straw at her feet, sputtering in the rain but catching. Damon's hand closed on the hidden dagger, blade coated with his blood mixed with her dried magic from hours ago. As fire licked the post, lightning cracked overhead. Eyes on Mira, he mouthed, "Believe me," and sprang forward. Steel flashed, he slit the rope binding her wrists. Gasps erupted. Brask shouted, drawing sword. Damon sliced through a guard's spear shaft, kicked another off the platform. Mira's hands free, she murmured a sharp syllable. Rain swirling above condensed into a whiplash column, dousing flames and knocking spectators back. She leapt down beside Damon. He seized her hand. Follow. They sprinted through stunned crowd, into the keep's east door. Alarms clanged. Brask pursued with soldiers. Damon and Mira wove cramped corridors. She whispered runes that slammed iron gates behind them. He led her to a spiral stair descending into crypt tunnels. Torches hissed as damp drafts collided. They reached the ritual chamber, an unused sanctum under Stonevale, floor inlaid with lost sigils. Damon shut the thick door, wedging his dagger through the hasp. Guards battered immediately. Mira scanned carvings. You planned this. Found it last night. He strode to the altar. Soul binding. He met her gaze. Will it work? She touched his chest where veins writhed. It will bind us. Your pain becomes ours. My heart becomes yours. There is no undoing. Then do it. She hesitated, reading sincerity or desperation in his eyes. Why trust me? Because interrogation chambers make liars. Your blood made me feel truth. He gripped her hands. And because if you die, I die anyway. Outside, the door cracked under rams. Time bled thin. Mira nodded once. Help me draw the circle. Blood and ash. He cut his palm deep, letting blood drip on groove lines while she sliced her own wrist, dark crimson mixing. Together, they traced serpentine sigils. She chanted an old tongue. He echoed shaky syllables. Their blood merged at the circle's heart, forming a pooled mirror. She stepped into it, pulling him close, chest to chest. Speak intention, she whispered. He said, I forsake the Inquisition, I choose life with you. She trembled. I accept your life and give mine. She kissed him. Soft rain after wildfire. Their combined blood ignited white fire, swirling up their bodies, burning black veins to cinders. Damon cried out as darkness tore free, shrieking like a thing alive, sucked into the circle, then dissolved. The chamber rocked, stone cracked. Guards broke through. Brask charged, sword raised. Damon snatched Mira's hand, eyes glowing faint crimson with new magic. He raised his other palm. A wall of blood fire roared, sending Brask and soldiers stumbling back. Damon's voice thundered. Stonevale is cleansed. Flames leapt along the crypt's dusty tapestries, climbing up tunnels. He guided Mira through a rear passage as smoke billowed. They emerged on a ledge overlooking the gorge behind the keep. Dawn's first light crowned peaks. Stonevale's towers spit black smoke. Horse lines panicked in courtyards. Mira leaned on him, weak but alive. He traced a thumb over her cheek. Your scars? Shared now, she murmured, touching his chest where smooth skin replaced rot. We live or fall together. He kissed her gently, wind whipping ashes around them. Sirens wailed in distant corridors. Brask's voice shouted orders lost in chaos. Damon clasped her hand. Time to vanish. They descended goat trails into the forest. Behind, Stonevale burned, a pyre for old faith. Rain ceased, sun-pierced clouds washing them in pale gold. They paused at the tree line. Mira pressed her forehead to his. Where do fugitives find sanctuary? Wherever there is sky. He smiled, a rare, tentative curve. And violet scent. She laughed softly, linking their fingers. Together they vanished into green shadows, blood bond thrumming like a shared pulse leading them forward, into danger, freedom, and the quiet promise that even curses can bleed into love when two ruined hearts dare to beat as one. Night pressed heavy on the forest, cool and resonant with distant owls. Damon propped their meager campfire with fallen branches while Mira knelt nearby, grinding herbs into a wooden bowl pulled from her satchel. She murmured runes beneath her breath, voice low enough that only the fire might listen. Since their escape, they'd spoken in practical bursts, directions, water sources, watch changes. But now the hush had stretched into something fragile and unresolved. He set a final log onto the small blaze and straightened. The new silence settled between them like a third presence. The black veins on his chest were gone, but in their place, faint crimson glyphs shimmered. Echoes of the binding ritual, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Mira bore matching marks around her wrist, delicate lines that faded and brightened with her breathing. She finished mixing and tipped the bowl toward him. "Drink," she said, passing a thick, copper-scented concoction. He sniffed it, eyebrows rising. "For flavor or survival?" "Survival, then flavor." Her lips lifted. "It replenishes blood lost in ritual. Both of ours." He drank, grimacing at bitterness, then wiped his mouth. "We need distance before Stonevale regroups. Within days they'll send trackers." She poked the fire, sparks swirling upward. "Trackers follow scents. Your armor reeks of the keep and I carry iron dust in my hair." She gestured to a nearby creek. "We wash, bury what links us, and head west before dawn. Beyond the ridge lies Hollowmere, neutral territory. Witches, barter, safe passage." Damon leaned against a tree, arms folding. "And the Baron's child. My superiors will brand you fugitive and me corrupted. If the curse remains, that boy dies." She met his gaze. "The boy will die unless we find the true caster. I told you, inside the Baron's household. We steal in, cure him, and show proof of another's guilt. It undermines the Inquisition's claim. Break into a noble manner." A humorless laugh escaped him. "I thought exile meant less danger." "It means choosing the right dangers." She scooped fresh dirt over embers, dimming them to dull glow. "You share my blood now. You'll feel my magic when we draw near the caster, like iron to lodestone." He studied her face under moonlight. "Then we go to Hollowmere, gather supplies, and slip into the Baron's estate after dusk. We cure the child. And then?" She shrugged, weary. "Then we run further." She offered a tentative smile. "Or we stop running and build something new." He stepped close, brushing a curl from her cheek. "Everything I built burned behind us." "Then let's start with ash." She laid a hand over his glyph-lit chest. "No more blades between us." He captured her fingers, intertwining them with his. "No more cages." He bent, kissed her, slow, steady, not like the storm before. Her lips tasted of bitter tonic and night wind. When they parted, he whispered, "We'll do this together." Hours before dawn, they doused the fire completely, buried Damon's inquisitor cloak beneath stones, and followed deer tracks through wet fern and fog. Mira whispered a glamour to mute their scent, but not even magic could stifle their shared pulse thrumming louder each mile. 2 days later, Hollowmere rose from mist. A handful of crooked timber cottages huddled around a shallow marsh aglow with will-o'-the-wisps. Merchants bartered charms at makeshift stalls. Children with mismatched eyes chased frogs that vanished into thin air. No one looked twice at strangers cloaked and road-worn. Secrets were the town's only currency. In the thatched loft of an alehouse, Mira and Damon met with Lysandra, a hedge witch broker draped in layers of gray linen. Her one price was honesty. Lies made the old woman's familiar, a fat crow, peckskin. Damon quietly endured the bird's scrutiny while Mira explained the Baron's child and the suspected household mage. Lysandra's milky gaze sharpened. "I know the symbol you carry in your blood. It belongs to Desir Hollow, a coven long dead. Save one." She rummaged in a chest, producing a tiny silver vial. "Bloodlight elixir. 1 drop on your tongue will let you feel the caster's heartbeat if they're within 100 paces. Mira nodded. "Price? A memory you treasure." Lysandra's cracked smile revealed no malice. only inevitability. Magic craves meaning. Mira closed eyes lifted a palm. Blood beaded at her fingertip, shaped into an image of a younger girl, herself, laughing with her mother beside a stream. The memory crystallized, floated to Lysandra, then burst into crimson mist absorbed by the crow's feathers. Mira swayed. Damon caught her elbow. Lysandra pressed the vial to him next. Damon hesitated, then sliced thumb with his dagger, conjuring a memory of Felix teaching him sword forms at dawn, laughter echoing off frost. It drifted away, leaving ache both hollow and sweet. The crow cawed, satisfied. "Go," Lysandra rasped. "Night after tomorrow the Baron hosts a masquerade in honor of the harvest moon. Few questions behind masks." Outside, Mira exhaled shaky breath. "Are you all right?" "Memories fade anyway," he said, though darkness etched his eyes. She placed her palm to his chest, warmth blooming where sorrow lingered. He caught her hand, kissed the scar on her wrist. Together they left Hollowmere at dusk. The baronial manor perched on a hill like a fat spider, all jutting spires and lattice shadows. Music drifted from open windows. Torches painted the lawn in honeyed gold. Masks glittered under candelabra. Damon and Mira slipped among guests as dark-cloaked harlequins, faces half hidden by feathered filigree. No one questioned their lack of invitation. Moon Hollow nobles prized spectacle over security. Inside, Mira let a single drop of bloodlight slide onto her tongue. She pressed her palm to Damon's, sharing half. A surge pulsed through their bind. Beneath the waltz of violins, another rhythm pounded, a heartbeat, cold and sharp, echoing from above. They climbed a servant stair. The heartbeat intensified behind an oak door engraved with alchemy symbols. Damon drew a dagger. Mira whispered a charm to muffle hinges. Inside, candles circled an obsidian basin filled with viscous black fluid. Runes pulsed on the floor. A slender man in blue brocade, court mage Julian Corta, stood chanting, eyes glazed. At basin's center floated a wax doll pinned with bone needles. The doll's face bore crude resemblance to the Baron's child. Mira hissed, "Blood phylactery, that's the curse." Julian turned, startled. His palm shot a bolt of violet fire. Damon shoved Mira aside, deflecting with dagger. Sparks scorched damask walls. Mira sliced her palm anew, flinging droplets that flared into thorny vines wrapping Julian's wrist, dragging him to knee. "I served House Cohen all my life," he snarled, struggling. "The Baron chose another mage, dismissed me for younger talent, so I chose a slower vengeance." Damon strode forward, rage simmering. "And you used me as testing ground." Julian's eyes widened as he recognized the Witchbane. Your rot in my blood ends now." Mira pressed her cut palm against Damon's healed glyph. Their bond flared crimson white, power surging through him. He plunged the dagger into the black basin. Their mingled blood boiled the fluid, shattering runes in blinding light. Julian screamed as vines tightened, then collapsed, unconscious. Curse severed. A hush followed, broken only by distant music. Mira knelt at the basin's remains, scooping melted wax. "The child will wake by dawn." She stood swaying. Damon caught her. "And our blood?" She laid her head against his chest. Unchanged. Bound. Footsteps clattered in hall below, guards drawn by the explosion. Damon lifted Mira, sprinting down servant corridors, through tapestry-hung passageways. They burst into a courtyard hedge maze, moonlight silvering leaves. Behind, shouts multiplied. He ducked into hedges, pulse drumming with adrenaline. Mira whispered a concealment, branches sliding closed behind them. They crouched beneath foliage, breathing hard. He brushed stray curls from her face. "We're even bigger fugitives now." She smiled despite exhaustion. "Heroes seldom make good citizens." He kissed her, slow and grateful. She kissed back with fierceness, fingers fisting his tunic. Somewhere beyond hedges, horns sounded. But inside their leafy cocoon, the world shrank to warmth, breath, bloodlight pulsing between joined chests. They escaped the manor through drainage tunnels and reached forest edge before dawn's first blaze. Crows wheeled overhead. Fog hugged roots. Mira slumped. Damon carried her until they found a mossy outcrop to rest. Sunrise filtered gold through treetops. When Mira's eyes opened, Damon sat nearby, sharpening a blade. He met her gaze, smiled gentle for once. "Child lives. We did it." She pushed upright, wincing. "And your curse?" He unbuttoned tunic, revealing smooth skin, glyph lines faded to faint silver. Quiet as morning. She exhaled relief, tears pricking. He slid beside her, kissed tears away, voice rough. "Thank you. For choosing me?" She teased, watery. "For believing," he answered. He produced 2 silver rings forged overnight from melted basin shards, rough, imperfect, twin symbols. "Magic branded us. Let's mark ourselves by choice." He slipped one on her finger, she slid the other onto his. They sat watching sunlight climb. In distant valleys, wanted posters would bear their names. In Stonevale's ruins, ashes cooled. In the Baron's manor, a child would laugh at first breakfast in months. Legends would twist, blame demons, or hail angels. The truth belonged only to them. A prisoner and her captor who bled into each other until curses broke and love stitched the wounds. Mira leaned against Damon, closing her eyes. He wrapped an arm round her, resting chin atop her head. "Where now?" she asked. "Anywhere," he said. "Everywhere." She smiled. "Let's start with breakfast. And then a place with fewer pitchforks." He laughed, the sound rusty but real. Together they rose, hand in hand, stepping deeper into forest shade where the world awaited, vast and wild and unwritten. Their joined blood thrummed with possibility, guiding their footsteps beyond pursuit, beyond ashes, into a dawn neither had dared imagine, reborn not as Witchbane and Thorn Witch, but as 2 souls bound by choice, scar, and the unwavering promise that love, like magic, could be forged from the darkest fire and still burn bright.